Have you noticed that as you grow and as you begin to feel more grounded, more connected to yourself, there are these moments where grief about your mother seems to surface more strongly, almost unexpectedly? You may feel like you're navigating this complicated relationship better. Maybe you're honoring your needs more consistently. Maybe you're understanding patterns within the relationship more clearly. And yet, this grief is still present, or it feels even stronger. I've spoken in a previous video about grieving the parent who is physically there, but not emotionally present. And today I want to expand on why that grief can feel so complicated and why it continues to show up, especially later in life. Because this grief doesn't always surface in childhood. As a child, your focus isn't on grieving what you didn't receive. Your focus is on adapting, maintaining connection, and staying safe. So you learn to read the room, to anticipate, to adjust. And that likely became necessary. But grief requires something different. Grief requires space. It calls for a certain level of safety in your body. And often that safety doesn't fully begin to develop until later, until you've explored and begin to implement what safety means for you. So you start to feel more stable and begin to reconnect with yourself. Your body starts to recognize a bit more safety. It's often when grief has the space to start surfacing. This grief can feel especially complicated when it involves your mother. The mother-child relationship, it's often layered with expectations. There's deep cultural narratives around the relationship with our mother and what that is supposed to look and feel like. Unconditional, nurturing, safe, supportive. So when your experience doesn't fully align with that, it can be really difficult to even name what's missing. It's often much more challenging to identify what we didn't receive versus acknowledging overtly harmful actions that we did endure. Maybe you find yourself thinking, wasn't that bad? They did the best they could, or other people had it worse. And there may be some truth to those statements, but ultimately they create distance from your own emotional experience. These statements minimize the impact of what you truly felt all those years and perhaps still continue to feel. So this grief feels complicated. You may hold love for your mother. You may have positive memories. You may still have a relationship. Yet at the same time, you can feel pain. You can feel unmet needs. You can feel this deep sense of something missing. And holding this polarity, it's not easy. It can create a hesitation to fully connect with what you truly feel. And for many people, this is where guilt enters. Guilt for feeling sad, guilt for feeling angry, guilt for even acknowledging that something was or continues to be missing, especially when your mother is still present in your life, and definitely around times like Mother's Day, when the world is often highlighting a very specific version of what this relationship should look like, of how you should feel towards your mother, how you should engage with her. And if your experience doesn't match that, it can feel really isolating. It can bring that grief closer to the surface. These moments can amplify the contrast between what this relationship really is for you and what you've needed and haven't received. It's important to highlight this grief is not a judgment of your mother. It's not about labeling her as all good or all bad. It's about honoring your experience, your needs, your reality. Grief in this context is your body recognizing what wasn't fully met. And allowing that to exist doesn't take away from anything that was there or that may still be there in your relationship with your mother. It simply makes space for the full truth of your experience. Your grief, your relationship with your mother is uniquely yours. Nobody else gets to tell you or decide for you what you should or shouldn't feel, how you should or shouldn't relate to your mother, how you should or shouldn't relate to your own grief. This is a process, and a process that doesn't need to be rushed. It doesn't require you to confront anyone if that's not what you choose to do. Simply noticing, allowing, creating space for what you feel without immediately trying to explain it away or judge it or minimize it. You could choose to begin by asking yourself, what comes up for me when I think about the relationship with my mother? Not what I should feel, but what I actually feel. And can I allow that, even just a little bit? Because this kind of grief often softens when it's acknowledged, when it's witnessed, when it's given permission to exist as it is. And if this is something you're noticing in your own experience, this is part of what can unfold as you begin to come back to yourself, to connect with yourself and honor your own truth. And if you'd like some support in gently exploring some of these patterns, especially around guilt, boundaries, and self-trust, you can find a free guide linked below that can help you move through this at your own pace. You can also look forward to this conversation being continued throughout the month of May. I'd like to honor the complexity for those of us who have challenging relationships with our mothers. As always, take good care of yourself. You're so worth it.